Tonight, my 68 Suburban's got a new heart, finally. And we play around with that 50-year-old GM paint a little bit. All right, so here's the 350 I've been setting aside for the burb. Time to finally get busy on, well, sticking it in there, making this thing a running driving truck. So this is a 72 350 that was out of a Longhorn that was rough, that got parted out, that I got my hands on, and was supposedly running a driving truck and everything. And I just pulled the motor out. So I am trusting that. It does seem to easily be true. It's got compression and it's not too dirty inside. So I'm just gonna give it a quick little aerosol overhaul here on the outside and get a few things cleaned up. I've got an aluminum intake for it. And yeah, get this thing shoehorned into that burb. Oh, it does have, I noticed as I was cleaning up here, has some kind of a block heater on it that they inserted into one of the old, soft plug, the freeze plug holes, and is leaking. It's not quite straight in there. It's kind of hanging out on this one side, and it's been sitting in my shop, and there's a slow little antifreeze puddle on the ground where it was sitting. So I'm gonna take that out of there and just put a normal freeze plug in it, since it's just so easy to access right now. It's funny, I haven't touched a freeze plug in years, and then I have to fix that one on Darren's truck. And now this just seems like sometimes things kind of come in twos or threes, or, I mean, after this, I probably won't touch another freeze plug for years again, but just kind of funny. Seems like that, might not be like that, but it sure seems like it. It's just got this little Allen head bolt, I'm guessing. I played with one of these block heater deals before, but it was different than this one. So I think I just unthread this, and this thing should pop out of there. It's like kind of like a nut that like spreads across the opening on the back side is what I'm guessing. But I think this threads out, and then the guy can, I have to get some pliers on or something. But not shocking to see it was leaking. It's all rusty. The thing just crumbled apart. I had to kind of like get a pry bar on it and get it out of there. But the people that whoever installed that, they didn't remove the old freeze plug. They freaking pounded it in there. It's in there up in here. You can hear me. That's the old freeze plug jammed up in the wall, the block right here. So I gotta get this old original freeze plug out of there. I can't leave it in there. Somehow I gotta fish it out. So, oop, there it is. Come on. Look at that. There we go. Come on. Almost. See the edge of it. Come on. Let's see. If I can get it up a little more, and I can just get some pliers on it. Sometimes you gotta fish them out with like tie wire or something. Once they get down in there, it's hard to get them out. All right, I gotta come up with something here. Luckily, it's an original steel one. I was able to kind of get it fished out of there partway with a magnet. Now I should be able to get these pliers on it, hopefully, and grab an edge and get it yanked out of there. Victory. All right, cool. Okay, let me get the opening cleaned up and get a new plug installed. All right, I swear I've pressure washed this thing about 9 times. Keep on finding more little dirty spots, but I think I finally got it. My OCD kicked in a bit there, but that's all right. It'll make it turn out nice. So, oh, I did get that new freeze plug popped in there, all ready to go. So, glad I got that fixed before we put it in the truck. Yeah, I'll get a few things tipped off here and get this thing squirted in some orange. Get it looking right. This is an old school trick, but always a fun one to share. Most everybody probably knows this, but whenever you're masking something, on the engine or any kind of part really, and you have something you don't want to get paint on it, so you run your tape over it, and you can run your finger across the outline of the area or whatever it be, and then just take your ball peen hammer, give it some nice little light tappy taps on the edge of that. Let me get this cover off here. On the edge of that area, and it can be kind of a little fast track to masking something off. Because now, as you can see, tape just pulls right off. Get a couple little taps there, but kind of hard to do it and hold the camera at the same time, but you guys get the gist of it. Works good for masking something off and not having to sit there and, you know, precision cut it with a razor blade. That gets the guy good enough, and yeah, keeps it from getting paint on it. Turned out pretty good. Certainly good enough for the truck it's going in. Cool. Okay, let this dry. The truck itself is, of course, far from perfect, so the motor should look pretty good in there. Should give a quick little pressure wash underneath here, too, actually. It's even a little dirtier than I thought. All right, I'm going to degrease the engine bay and give us a quick little pressure wash. Pressure washer's still hooked up, so why not? I do also, while the motor is out, I want to remove this tranny cooler and redo these tranny lines. I'll probably wait till the motor's in, actually, to do those so I can tuck them on the oil pan style nice and close. This thing has a 700 R4 in it. The previous owner put in it, which is cool. And I know he daily drove this thing a long time with his transmission. And he moved the motor forward and kept the transfer case in the stock location to accommodate for the extra length of the transmission, which is a pretty common way to do the 700 R4 swap on these trucks. So all's cool. I'm not a big 700 R4 guy. I'm not against them. I'm not for them. I usually never play with them because I'm 67 to 72 only, and the only way one of these trucks has one of those in it is if it got swapped in like this. So we're gonna run it. It should be nice with this thing, with the, you know, the low first gear that the 700 R4 has, and then eventually, you know, the overdrive, so get some decent RPMs in the highway. But I just want to fix these transmission lines while this motor's out. And like I said, I'm gonna get rid of this cooler, and I have a nice radiator that will just hook up the lines right to the radiator rather than running, because they didn't have it hooked to the radiator. They ran the lines straight up, kind of, you know, janky along the frame rail there. It's been rubbing on here, so actually I might have to get a new set. I'll get these out and inspect them, make sure they're gonna be fine and no leaky, and get them routed a little bit better. You know, get them kind of in the frame or by the oil pan, not like hanging up here by the top of the frame rail. And like I said, this is just all they had it ran to. They had like a bunch of adapters and decent transmission, you know, decent cooler here, but it's just janky. I'm gonna get rid of it. So okay, get this stuff ripped out, and might do a few little wiring fixes too. There's a few extra wiring little things I might undo and get rid of, and there's like a solenoid here that's going to nothing, and a secondary windshield washer. Oh, I guess it could be an overflow for the radiator. That'd be a good way to do it. I might leave that there. That would be kind of cool. It's a windshield washer fluid reservoir, but I'm sure they were using it as an overflow. It's got the windshield washer fluid here that's still hooked up. They just use that bracket in the same little bottle to do a rat overflow. So I might leave it in place. We'll see. But okay, so a few little things to clean up and get ready to get this motor stuffed in here. All right, I got the motor back inside, and I need to get an intake on this thing. So I didn't really have a good one lying around, so I reached out to a couple buddies, and Devin and Reggie both had one and said, hey, just come get this thing. So Reggie had this Edelbrock Performer here, and Devin had this Edelbrock Street Master, which I actually haven't really even seen before or even heard of. And I did a little research on it and found out that these aren't too bad. This is what kind of the general consensus was for a stock motor. So this, of course, is an Edelbrock Performer that, you know, half my trucks in my fleet have this on it if they're a small block truck. This is just kind of the go-to slightly rised aluminum intake, dual plane and everything, and spread bore, you know, for a quadrajet carb. This is also spread bore, but this was one that came out in the early 70s, and it actually is a single plane, and it has a really shallow, you know, depth height in there and everything. So it's just kind of odd looking, and you can see the runners, you know, each is single plane the whole way through, and it's just kind of a big deep, and then right to the runner, and they're long and they're skinny runners. So I kind of read up on these, and there's a guy on there who had a really good write-up. He actually sold these intakes back in the day where he worked, and so he kind of had a good, you know, true review on them and said, hey, these came out in the early 70s. They were for improving power and even economy with a stock, you know, to mild motor. And they ran these basically just on a truck that came right off the assembly line, this was a good intake to go on it. And it was during the gas crisis, so it was to help with economy, but not kill power. I've seen, SP, 2P, which were like a pure economy intake. I've seen some of those, had one of those before, and they're funny because some of them, the ports are like downsized. They got little tiny little ports on them, and you can just tell that they're not gonna flow well at all, and they restrict the engine and basically kill all the power. These supposedly were not like that. This was good for torque because the runners are long and run right into the heads, and so I'm gonna give this one a shot. Let's go on this big bourbon, and we need all the torque we can get. So if this is truly gonna help with low end torque, and this motor isn't a screamer, this is just a stock 72 350. Again, what the motor that these were basically designed to go on and help improve them, then this should be a good fit. And so I'm gonna try this one out and stick it on there. And if it's good, it's good. And if it's bad, then, well, I'll pull it off and I'll just put the old tried and true performer on it. But yeah, Edelbrock Streetmaster, blast from the past. That guy did say the Streetmaster, it was basically good from idle up to 4,500 RPM. That's when this thing was done, done flowing, and at that point wouldn't be helping the motor anymore. And that's fine, because that's about the peak power range that this motor is, well, it's gonna be done at that. Might be a little bit of 4,500, but at that point it's done. There's nothing left. This thing might rev to 5, but at that point it's time for it to shift, and there ain't nothing left. When, the old performers, sometimes these are good, they sell, say, from idle to 6,500 or from idle to 5,500. So, I mean, I know this is good, but I'm also kind of more intrigued than anything, and it'll be fun to try this one out and see how it does. There's another review of a guy who said that, he had one on his C20 and said it woke it up just a little bit and gave him just a nice smooth power band, and he was all, he was all for it. And it was just a C20 he used to tow lightly. It was a small block truck and Turbo 400. And so he was all about it and said, you know what? No, I had nothing wrong with those things. I liked them, and just kind of noted the fact that he hadn't seen one in ages, and he wouldn't be afraid to run one again if it ever was in front of him. So I'm going with the word of the old dogs. They said the Streetmaster's all right. So we'll see. We'll see for ourselves. All right, help's arrived. My lovely wife is here to help me get this small block put together, the intake on, and just a few other little bits. She's painting the water pump there, and so with any luck, we'll have this together and ready to go in the burp here shortly. So what do you think? Thumbs up. All right, that's what you think. All right, let's get busy. Chelsea's painting the water pump, getting it the right color. Some Chevy orange on there, so it matches the block. And I just gave the intake a good scrubbing because it had some mud and crud on it. Devin actually ran this on a derby car that he put together a few years back, and so washed off some of that Transket Fairgrounds dirt and mud and crud it had on it, and got looking a little bit better. So I'm gonna get the port side cleaned and make sure they're all nice and ready to seal up to the block, and yeah, get this thing on the 350. There's another hint of it being on a derby car. It was covered in mud, but the thermostat is just punched out. So Devin, I'm guessing this is your handiwork, making sure it had flow no matter what. Gotta love a small block Chevy for a derby car motor. That's the best one they ever made for doing such. They will run hot and continue to stay running even if they're running hot, while other motors will just puke and seize up and throw in the towel. Small block Chevy, gotta love it. All right, got the intake plopped down here. Getting the bolts started. We'll let that RTV set up for a little bit, and we'll start torquing this baby down. We'll snug them up first, and then go back with the torque wrench and make sure they're all torqued just right. I do like this this Streetmaster for the fact of these bolts right here. These are super easy access. Sometimes with the Performers and other intake offerings, these bolts can be super hard to get at, but you can easily get a ratchet and socket in there in those bolts and not have to fight them. Some intakes are a pain there. Y'all, you're started? Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, so we got those snug down. Those are all good to go. And we're gonna start working on these. I was just gonna run those stamped steel covers they had, but we got aluminum intake and we got a lift kit. We got some mags on the truck. We might as well run some Chrome Morosos because, well, these are gonna look cool. So we're gonna get these SOS and cleaned up and get some new gaskets glued to them and get them on the motor. My local Napa's the best. They carry about anything and everything small block Chevy, including thick cork gaskets, which I prefer, of course, to get these things to seal up, especially chrome or, you know, any kind of aftermarket valve covers. I think the thick gasket, well, I know the thick gasket helps. Get these put on here.
So which way does it go? Because there's...
Oh, okay, so that's, well, any way you put it on is gonna be fine because it'll line up with the holes in the valve cover. That's for staggered, that's for earlier heads, the other inboard hole. So if you look, okay, look at this one right here. See the lower one? Yeah. See how they're all evenly spaced? And it has these are too. All four are evenly spaced. Look at the one above it.
It's off a little bit.
Yeah, so yes, see the top holes are inboard a little bit. So that was the early like 50s stagger bolt pattern. I think 59 or so was the last year for that. And so the valve cover gaskets are just, they're just universal for to do either kind of valve cover, you know, bolt pattern. But, yeah, so anyway you put it on, you'll be fine. All right, we're about to throw in a new water pump. Get a little RTV around the mating surfaces here. You could put some on the back side of the water pump too. Get our gaskets in place and bolt down this new water pump. Yeah, just kind of get her close and try to start the top two bolts. Yeah, right there. Just try to start turning that one while you're holding it. You'll feel it catch the threads. Get a couple threads in. Tilt the water pump down a little bit. I think there you go. You feel it go into place. It's okay. I don't think you quite had it started. There it is. Get the other one started. There you go. All right. Yeah, you can just run it down. Yeah, keep holding it in place, and you can just run it down with that, just to where it's snug. That's good. And then, yep, you got her. We're doing this all now because it's easier to, well, do this before it's up in the truck, this lifted up in the air, and on 35s where you gotta crawl over the fender to do anything to it. So we're gonna put the distributor in next because, well, it's gonna be easier to do that now than later. All right, we got it turned over to top dead center and we stabbed the distributor. It's just kind of nice to do this now on this engine because of the rig it's going in. It's just kind of a pain to get back in there and try to set the, you know, the oil pump to the right spot and get that distributor stabbed in it. On the four-wheel drives, because the engines are so far back against the firewall, of course, of this generation truck. So we're trying to do about everything we can to this thing before stabbing it, you know, putting it in the hole, because it's just a little easier now than while it's in there in that jacked up truck on the big tires. So, all right, I think we're nearly ready. What do you think? I think so. Okay, so we've got to, you know what we got to do though? We've got to get the Suburban inside. Yeah, so that might be our, well, Scooty's sleeping. We gotta wake him up. Scooty, you're in the way, buddy. We gotta open the door. He'll be excited, let him outside. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. If we, I think we can fire up the old forklift and maybe just pull it in with the strap, and there should be enough room to kind of drive the forklift up towards the front of the building along the toolbox there and just kind of pull it. But this thing is heavy. It rolls okay, it's just heavy, and you really can't see it here, but there is a natural little slope to the concrete pad here out back, so it's an uphill battle whenever you're going into the shop. So this is my shop forklift. It's a 1952 Motolift. It's a classic. Of course, we gotta, you know, keep it real here. 72 only. So, the battery, this one always gets me too because I gotta pay attention. It is a industrial flathead 4-cylinder, and it is a positive ground. And every time I try to put a battery in this thing, I have to remind myself that it's, well, backwards. So steal the battery out of Dale and we'll try to get this old girl fired up. It usually always starts. It sits for months and months and even like almost a year at a time. I hardly ever use it, only when I'm having to lift something heavy. And yeah, so we'll get the battery out of Dale and try to get it fired up. All right, got the battery hooked up the correct backwards way. And let's see if we get this old girl to fire up. It's got an electronic fuel pump. Ah, yeah, let's see. I'll give it some gas while I push this. It's a hot rod. Get the Bigfoot gas pedal. Go ahead and tap it. Keep going. Oh yeah. Cool. All right, we'll get some things out of the way. All right, we got our little road train here hooked up, so we're just gonna try to lug on through the shop here and try to pull a Suburban into place so we can work on it inside. Ready, babe? You gonna steer? Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thumbs up. She's all thumbs up today. Okay, let's see. Bits and pieces. That's enough out of you. What's that? I don't think so. I think it's right at the money. We're gonna get here so we can close the door. All right, we got this thing inside. It barely fits. These Suburbans are actually about a foot longer than a long bed truck. It's kind of funny. You don't really realize until you put a tape on it or you try squeezing it into a small shop like this with not much room, but it's in here. So yeah, it's just getting dark outside and we're gonna work on this thing for the evening and get some more things done on it. So figure we pull it in here and crank the tunes and yeah, get this motor in and see what else we can get done. This one bolt hole in the end of the crank had a booger or something in it. So I'm just trying to tap through it. I think I've got it cleared out now. But could not get that bolt started. Last little fight hopefully here before we get this thing shoved in the hole. There we go. Okay. All right, get those torques down and it's ready. I kind of brought it up in the last video of me putting a lift kit on the Suburban, but I wanted to clarify again. This truck is mine. I bought it with intentions of putting it back on the road and bringing it back to a little bit of its former glory. It's not a customer's truck. So you still might be asking yourself, well, gosh, why isn't he putting a brand new motor in it? Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? Well, it's because I can't afford it. This is what fits my budget, and this is the money I have to spend on this truck. So you'll see me doing different levels of work here at Gold City Trucks, and a lot of times it's on my own stuff. It's gonna be on a budget. Because I'm not made of money. I'm made up of mostly just a bunch of old, rusty trucks. Well, there it is, in the hole. Looks good. Looks at home. This is exciting. Sometimes you just need to just kind of motivate yourself and just get on it and just kind of tackle the project and can make you kind of motivated to continue working on it. So, no, this is cool. It's in the hole. Looks good. Looks right at home. Chelsea just ran to the store and got stuff for dinner. So,
Sandwiches.
All right. Dinner at the shop tonight. We're going to keep plugging away at this a little bit. We're going to have a bite to eat and get back on this. But, gourmet.
Mm-hmm. Nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best around here. All right, so with dinner over, back on the truck. And, well, things aren't going, let's say, quite as planned. Got something weird going on here. I have a huge gap between my torque converter and my flex plate. Now I've heard of this before, and I know about shimming and making sure you have the proper gap to ensure your converter is not resting against the pump and also not too far away and disengaging from it. So again, I've heard of that, but I've never ran into this. This is ridiculous. This is about a 1/2 inch gap. This is huge. And I can slide the converter to the flex plate. With a little bit of wiggle jiggle. But I know at this point it is certainly disengaged from the pump. It's got a huge gap. I've done dozens of transmissions and dozens of motor swaps, and I've never ran into a huge gap like this before. So I've got something going on here, and I'm not just going to blame this on R4 quite yet, but I do believe this is a aftermarket torque converter. This doesn't appear to be factory to me. So the torque converter could be odd. This was a running and driving truck, so this has had a motor bolt to it, and this torque converter has been in use. So it's not broken. It's not like it ain't gonna work. The flex plate could be bent, and I'm almost leaning towards that. It's just one that was basically new. I had kicking around that I set aside for this thing because I knew I'd be putting a motor in it. But maybe this flex plate's bent. So I've got something going on here, and I'm afraid I'm going to pull the motor back out and take a look at this flex plate. Probably going to take it back out, check out this flex plate, compare it to another one. Maybe go buy another brand new flex plate, install it, and if we got the same gap, then that's just what it is. And I will make spacers to go in between, which is what people do when you have this issue. And it seems to be a common thing with some R4s. A lot of guys online talking about this, a lot of YouTube videos on it. I've just never ran into this before. So I got to get this right and get this correct, or it ain't going to be right. I've got to figure this out. This is one of those moments where you're laying underneath the rig, contemplating your life choices and going, what the heck is going on here? How am I going to do this? But that's how it is working on rigs and old junk. This is how it goes. This is the reality of it. So, okay, I'm going, and I have seen too, I read up on it, they make also spacers that go in between the crank and the flex plate and a little bit longer bolts. And so I like that the most, because if that gets it and pushes it out and gets it in play, you're not relying on, these 3 little individual spacers or washers out here to do the job. It's just basically spaced right out and nothing in between. So I got some more reading and some more investigating to do here. I've got a good transmission book I'm going to pull out and see what it says about this. That actually covers, how to build 700 R4s and Turbo 350s, blah, blah, blah. GM transmission handbook. So I'm going to pull that thing out tonight, sit down on the couch and read that and see if I can learn anything there or more about this kind of certain topic. But I've definitely got something going on here, and I need to get this sorted because it's not right. There's something fishy going on. I'm pointing my fingers at this, but it could be because this is an aftermarket torque converter, and well, it just needs a big giant spacer to be right. So, okay. Here I was just boasting about how morale had changed, how exciting this was getting the engine in, and then just the wind goes right back out of your sails. You run into a problem like that, but that's just the way it goes. It's the way that pickle squirts. I am just thinking here, it's about 8:30. I'm ready to throw in the towel and be done for the day. Like I said, go home and read that book a little bit and try to learn something about torque converter spacing and see if what I got here is just out of the ordinary. It seems to be a lot to me, or if this is just normal and I haven't seen it yet. I'm really thinking it might be a bent flex plate that I'm just I didn't catch when I was sticking it in or something or what, but it's okay. It's really easy to pull the motor back out. We'll pull it back out, pull the flex plate off of it, compare it to another one, and yeah, see what's going on here, because that gap is way too big. And if the gap's what it's going to be, it ain't the flex plate, and it's just a torque converter, and that's the way it's going to go, then I'll have some nice spacers made, or I'll buy one of them crank spacers that go behind the flex plate, and we'll run it. That's all I can do. It does look good though with the engine in it and sitting in there. The blue and the orange is a nice contrast. This old beater, it's gonna look a lot better going down the road, not just sitting out the back of my shop. So I did just talk to Chelsea though. We got a little game plan. I think I got I got one more little way of uplifting. I guess I should just say my spirits at this point. Maybe I'm being selfish. But I've got one more little thing we're gonna do it tonight that I've been wanting to do for a long while. And I'm gonna throw a buffer at this fender and see how this original paint shines up. This truck's mostly original paint. It's got some spot ends back there and the same ones that are quarter panel and whatnot. And our doors have got kind of some letter blue here and there. But that right there is 1968 GM original paint. And I'm gonna throw a buffer at that and see how this whole girl will shine up. Because I know it will. And I'll go home happy about my paint and less bummed about my torque converter flex plate issue. Okay to go now. Okay, so this is my go-to Wizards Turbo Cut. I actually detailed cars for years and played around quite a bit. And when it comes to original paint, a good heavy cut compound is what you need to really bring it back. 3M heavy duty is also another compound I like quite a bit, but the Wizards to me has a little bit easier cleanup. And so this is actually kind of exciting. I haven't touched this thing in about a year. Just been doing wrenching and rust repairs, so let's see what happens here. What's that?
Get back to the basics.
Back, okay, all right. So you see I've kind of done the pad there, so I'm just kind of working around. The nice thing is, if you're bumping a fresh paint job, that's scary. That's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? You know, I'm gonna burn through and you don't wanna mess it up. But when you're bumping this old oxidized, core paint, it's not in good shape. You really can't hurt it any worse than it is. So don't be scared of a buffer or throwing one at it because it's gonna look fine. It's gonna look good, and you're gonna wear paint off, and it's just gonna shine up. So everybody's all scared of doing this. Don't be scared. It's no big deal. I kind of worked around there a little bit. I'm just kind of gonna go slow at first, and the compound kind of works its way off of the pad. Gets to a point where it's not flinging all over the place, and then I'll let it have it. Probably go low RPM. There we go. Don't be scared of them ones. Main thing all you're doing is polishing the chrome. I went on a bit more pass down the lower and upper and with that Wizards compound. Now I'm just going over it with a spray detailer. I just kind of soaked the whole panel, and I just did that to loosen up any of the compound that's still kicking around and wipe it off. When you cut them with a really heavy compound like that, there's going to be swirls. Got to go over with a secondary swirl remover, lighter compound. But that second cut goes really fast. You're basically just running over it real quick with a softer foam pad and lighter compound. But yeah, it's always crazy with the GM paint, how it'll come back, or how it's still got some life left in it. You can obviously see it there on camera, how much different it looks than it did. But it keeps the same patina. It's got the good look still, the patina that's all the craze, and it's just got some natural sheen to it. A lot of guys, they like to do clear coat and run over the whole truck with a gallon of clear, and it just kind of, to me, it has a superficial or I should say artificial look to it, because, well, it is. This is buffing the original paint that was there and shining what's left, and it will, as you can see too, add shine and sheen to the primer that's underneath, but still keep the, you know, surface rust patina that essentially was there. Pretty cool. There's a good little side-by-side of it right there. Got the unbuffed, faded original, all chalky, and the freshly buffed. So, as you guys can see, doesn't take much time, and it turns out killer. And if you put a good coat of wax on it, that shine will last for years. I buffed my shop truck Longhorn 3 years ago, and it's just now kind of in due for a light touch-up on some of the areas like the hood and whatnot. But yeah, it doesn't go away. It won't wash away. This is, you know, polishing compound that is buffing the original paint, and this is the new finish. This isn't just wax smeared over it. So now, you know, a guy runs over this with a lighter compound swirl remover, get all the swirls out of it, and it's ready for a wax. And again, it will last and look good for years to come. So if your old pickup's got original, you know, paint on it, original GM paint, don't be scared to buff it. Again, I kind of was saying there, you really can't hurt any more than it is, especially if it's looking like this. You know, if it's weathered and battered and tattered, you really can't go wrong. That's a good way to learn how to buff. It's only when you got a fresh paint job or real nice paint, we got to worry about, well, causing damage or harm with the buffer. But for an old, worn out, weathered, worn, faded pickup, hit it with the buffer. Don't be scared of it. It will look good. What do you think, Scoot? Does it pass the test? You ready to go home, buddy? Calling it a night. I'm going to go read up on torque converter spacing and 700 R4s and GM transmissions till I just can't no more. Hit the hay and come back tomorrow. Head to the Devons to help work on Monty's pickup. It's all down there at his place. We're going to put the cab on tomorrow. So exciting day for that. And if I got any energy left in me, by the time that's all over, working at his place all day, I'm going to come back and pull this motor out. We're going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to grab another flex plate if the parts store's got one. And yeah, try to get this sorted because something's going on. It's that one where you take it home with you and you can't stop thinking about it. Well, I've got that one kicking around in my head right now. What is going on with my torque converter and flex plate spacing? To be continued. I've got a going that way. Got a flex plate around here somewhere. It's in the front seat of one of them. I think it's this way. There it be. This is from a running and driving truck I pulled a mortar out of, so I know this flex plate is good. So, all right. This one does have in it, though, I think some ram horn manifolds. Oh, there's my power steering I need for the Suburban. After 71, 72, and no emissions holes or ports. Okay. Parts trucks are the best. That's why we have a field of them. Okay. I wasn't to buy a new one, but Napa didn't have one in stock. I remembered I had this one that I actually pulled out of a, like I say, running and driving truck, and it's got a couple little slightly chewed up teeth, but it worked good. The starter didn't have any issues, and I know this one works. It's off of a 71 Chevy with a 350. So I'm gonna get this pulled back out of here, inspect that flex plate, see if it's bent or funky or what. All right, kind of as I expected. Oh, just in time.
Is it bent?
Yes, it is. Look, you can nearly see it. It's dished one way really hard. That's weird. See, the thing was, I had this one lying around, and I can't remember where I got this from, and just kind of set it aside. And well, I guess we should have paid attention, but never had a flex plate bent like that before. It looks brand new. That's what I always thought it to be. Maybe that's why they, whoever I got it from didn't run it. I don't know. whatever. Well, it's bent. You see that? So, yeah, that should take care of most of the problem, if not all of it. The converter might still need to be shimmed up with a really big gap, but this is kind of as I expected. This is the problem. So I grabbed one from Dad's house out there. Yep. Yeah, you can kind of see that was how it should be. Not bent, straight, flat. What do you think?
I think let's get busy.
Let's get busy. Okay. Chelsea loves it when I put the camera on her and ask her what she thinks. She suddenly becomes unable to think. I think we need to get this done, right? How was your day? Okay. Good. I love you. Okay, yeah. I just read somewhere last night while I was looking up all this converter spacing that there's 2 different converter bolt patterns. It got me kind of thinking about that and making sure that that we're all good to go with this. That was a random flex plate I got. Cool. Okay, we'll get on the motor and we'll get it back in. Hey, Goby. What do you think, Bubby? Yeah. What? Think we got it this time? Can you sit? Good boy. All right. That definitely helped. It is way less. So I'd say now it's about, well, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And the converter is much happier sliding up to that. I do think I still need to shim it slightly. I got some hardened washers here. It should be enough, but this is way, way, way better than it was. So, okay, that's a victory. All right, so I got some just thick washers I had lying around. Got it kind of just, well, barely taped into place, but this still gives the guy an idea of what he's got. So this converter slid all the way back. Again, my gap's too big. It's not, 2 miles wide like it was before with the bent flex plate, but I still have too big of a gap here. So I got to shim this converter. So I've got, a little washer right here. I've got kind of just taped into place. And there was a good video online that said, well, the easiest way to check it, don't try to get a dial caliper up in there, just use a drill bit. So I've got a 1/4 inch drill bit here. We'll see that still slide in between. Oh, jeez, yeah, let me just drop it. You can see that will slide in between the, see, the washer's in place and the torque converter. Got a 1/4 inch gap, and that's just right at the tolerance you actually want it to be. No more than a 1/4 inch of gap between the converter being all the way back and then, being slid forward up to the flex plate. So this is just right on the verge of still being too much. So I'm going to go in tomorrow to the hardware store, and I know in some of the little upper boxes of the little hardware section, they've got some thick hardened washers. So I'll take my bikes in and see if they got ones that are a little bit thicker than this. And yeah, should be just right at that point. So these washers just about do it. It really probably would be, passable through my research and whatnot. But I'm going to try to go get washers just a little bit thicker. But as far as I'm concerned, we've got this torque converter spacing issue, figured out. So I feel a lot better than I did last night. Scratching my head going, what is going on here? Because I've never seen like that before. Well, this converter needs to be spaced. It's got a big gap, and then we had a bent flex plate, making it look 10 times worse. So, all right. So it's not the 700R4 yet. I'm not gonna point my fingers or be upset at it yet. I did notice this thing doesn't have a dipstick. I don't know why. I think he just pulled it out so that. Oh no! You know what? I remember. I actually, when I hauled this thing home, because I got it in Leavenworth, Washington, there was no dipstick in it. And we hauled to the DMV office. It's all kind of coming back to me now. There was no dipstick in it because he was kind of doing a motor swap and didn't really get around to doing it. There was no dipstick in it. And we took it to the DMV office to do a title transfer. On the way there, from his house to the DMV office, a couple miles, it puked out training fluid all over my car trailer. And he happened to have this little rubber plug that he had in his truck. He did construction. It had a little plug thing. And I jammed that plug in there in the dipstick hole to keep it from continuing to puke fluid all over my car trailer. But and it's coming back to me now. I forgot all about that. But I got to get a dipstick for it. I've got to get the TV cable bracketry for the carb and stuff and whatnot. I've got to get, of course, you know, plugs, wires, and whatnot, and all just the normal stuff it needs to run. And you guys did see in that video earlier, I'm putting some ram horn 4-wheel drive manifolds together for it. So I'm gonna get kind of those, grab that one from my house and try to get those squared away tomorrow, maybe on it. But a few things to order up. So it's gonna be a minute before we're running here still. I'll have to take it to exhaust and have new downpipes ran. But really, this thing's got its new heart in it. It's doing a lot better than it was, well, 2 days ago. And it's one step closer to being back on the road. So get some parts ordered up, get a few things coming, and then we'll get back on this thing and make this old 350 make some noise and move this big old blue beast on down the road. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, more 67 to 72 content soon. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.